today, the Tea Party and cash for the Tea Party Patriots, what it all may mean for the future of the House and Senate and those upcoming November midterms and beyond. In our ongoing Behind the Ballot series, we'll interview Ryan Frazier, the conservative running for Congress in Colorado, and we'll close with a Bob Schieffer interview with Ambassador Nancy Brinker, who founded the Susan Komen Race for the Cure. Of course, it's Tuesday, and we're joined as always by Jeff Zeleny, the New York Times chief political correspondent, and more importantly, a big Nebraska fan. And Jeff, before we talk about politics, let's just focus on what really matters, and that's your Nebraska team has rocketed up in the AP polls after that whooping that they put on Washington.
That's right. Two important numbers this week from Saturday: 56-21, Nebraska, Washington. So we're coming after your Tide.
No. See, that's my next question, though. You know, because the Tide rolled big as well over a very strong Duke team, I'd like to say. So, you know, you want to make a bet?
I do not, but
No?
one of the red states will win, I think.
Well, we will see.
Okay.
Anyway, all right, well, going to the main event now, of course, we're joined today by Tea Party Patriots Mark Meckler and Jenny Beth Martin. And you guys, thanks very much for joining Jeff and me today. First of all, you've just made and are coming from what is a very big announcement. Why don't you tell us about that, some infusion of cash?
Yes, we had a donor who has donated $1 million to help Tea Party groups on the ground locally. And it's not going to Tea Party Patriots, it's going to the local groups on the ground to help them get our message out of fiscal responsibility, constitutionally limited government, and free markets.
Now, this is an anonymous donor, so I shouldn't even waste my time asking you guys. You're being mum on that. But it seems like when you say that it's going to the groups on the ground, you've got, what, about 2,800 independent groups spread across the country. How will you guys divvy that up? What do you think this will mean for you going forward?
Basically, there's going to be a grant proposal process, so we'll put out a request for proposals, and grant requests will come in from the groups on the ground. We expect to have all those in by September 26th, and then the goal is to have the entire $1 million out the door by October 4th to be spent in the lead up to the November 2nd elections.
Now, what will this mean specifically in these races? You know, if a group in Ohio or Indiana, for example, gets this money, what will it do to help your candidates?
Well, we don't endorse candidates at Tea Party Patriots. We are a grassroots, bottom-up organization. Our local coordinators have said they don't want us to endorse. What they truly want is for Americans across the board to understand why we're doing this, what liberty means, what our Constitution says, and what's at stake. So that's what they'll be working on.
So it's a get out the vote exercise. Like, what are you doing targeting with this? I mean, what specifically will these resources be used for?
You know, I know it's hard to believe, but the goal is that we're not telling people what to use it for. We believe that the best government is local government. The best Tea Party is the local Tea Party. And the goal is to allow them to leverage their efforts that are already underway. The limitation is they can't use the money for direct electoral activities. They can't endorse a candidate. They can't promote a particular candidate or issue. They can get out the vote for people to vote on our principles. They can build their chapters. Whatever they're doing locally, this is a chance for them to have a little capital and leverage those efforts.
Now, you guys have obviously been in Washington now a few days. You live in Atlanta. I think you live on the West Coast in California. It just seems to me that, you know, in recent months or the last 9 or 10 months or so, we've kind of seen this growing realization that's just hit Washington that, you know, the Tea Party is maybe not just this fringe group of wackos. I mean, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. Have you noticed this kind of change in attitude since you've been here, or what do you pick up on when you're kind of inside the Beltway dealing with some of these established, kind of power groups and media organizations?
They do not understand what our organization is about. They really have a hard time understanding how we can be grassroots, bottom up, and truly trust and empower local coordinators to make decisions and to drive the national organization. It's backwards from the way things are done in DC, and they are not used to it. And a lot of what I found in DC is that the people who are in office, who are elected to office, or who work here, who are employed here, they tend to think they know better than everybody else, that they are elite. They understand what's better for everyone else. We'll just take care of you. We'll tell you what to do. You just listen to us. We know. And the fact
you mean the patronizing and condescending in Washington?
Yeah, I know. It's hard to believe.
You know, we repeatedly hear the phrase when we're sitting in meetings, "You don't understand." And
this
tell
is with,
them,
with staffers,
whether it's staffers or actual elected folks or people from large DC-based organizations. And the truth is, we don't understand. We do understand how it's done
you don't
in the rest of the
understand what
country.
they're doing here in Washington.
We don't
and why.
get the way it's done here.
Right.
And is that what you think voters are feeling as well? I mean, Jeff, you've written obviously a lot in the Times about some of this, but is this really why you've been able to strike a chord with people across the country that you're saying what they feel? Washington doesn't get it. We don't want the pat on the head anymore. I mean, have you picked up on some of that too in some of your interviews and work?
Sure, without a doubt. I mean, I think that that's one of the reasons there's sort of this confluence of frustrations out there, and it's one of the reasons groups like this, are giving voice to people who otherwise might be, just sitting at home throwing things at their television, if you will. But I think as we get closer to the election, some of the candidates who've had the support of the umbrella Tea Party movements have won, and now will have to come into the system, that currently exists. What is your view of the future of the Tea Party movement as it has to coexist in some respect with the establishment? Will it be co-opted by the establishment, vice versa? Do you have any worries about that?
I have no worries at all. Folks who think that it might be co-opted, and we've heard certain political figures say that's their intent. The reality is, and that means those are people who don't understand the movement. These are fiercely independent people. They're now empowered. They're paying attention. We intend to continue giving them the tools that they need to watch what these folks are doing so that they can hold their feet to the fire regardless of their political party affiliation.
Do you think Christine O'Donnell's a liability to your movement, though? Is that a way that people can kind of try to marginalize the entire Tea Party movement?
I think folks have looked for anything they can to try and marginalize the movement. At first, we didn't exist, and then we were AstroTurf, and then we were racist, and people are going to point to particular candidates, particular issues, particular races. The reality is the movement transcends all those things. This is a massive multi-million member movement across the nation.
People have to sit down at home and balance their own checkbooks. This is a very tough economy. They understand at home what fiscal responsibility means, and they also understand if you're not responsible with your money, what the consequences are, whether it's happening to them personally or they're watching it happen to their neighbors and family members. And they want the government to quit taking so much money from us and let us be able to keep our money, and they expect the government with the money that they are taking to be responsible with it.
If Republicans would happen to win control of the House and or Senate, what is your message to the next crop of Republican leaders, what they should do in the next term of Congress?
I think our first message would be we don't consider it a Republican victory at all. This would be a victory for Americans, for Tea Party values, and the reality is they need to follow those values. The real message is follow the values, or we'll see them again in 2 years as they're on their way out the door and a new crop are on their way in.
All right. Well, we're going to have to end it there. Mark Meckler, Jenny Beth Martin, thanks very much for joining us. We'll look forward to talking to you again as we go forward toward November and beyond. Thanks very much.